Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. It is me, OC Steve, and I thought I'd just share some of my thoughts and opinions because I recently just watched James Gunn's The Suicide Squad last night on HBO Max. So I honestly enjoyed it. The movie itself is about like 2 hours and 15-ish minutes, but it's a lot of fun, man. I mean, it's very reminiscent of old rated R James Gunn before he started doing Guardians of the Galaxy, where it was really gory. It was over the top. It was hyper violent. The jokes were a little crude, but it was a fun ride nonetheless. So I enjoyed it a lot. So let's kind of delve deep into it. So we do have some returning cast members from the original movie from 5 years ago from David Ayer's Suicide Squad. We've got Margot Robbie coming back as Harley Quinn. We have Joel Kinnaman coming back as Rick Flag. We have Jai Courtney coming back as Captain Boomerang, the guy that was drinking all the energy drinks and had a weird obsession with unicorns. And then we also have Viola Davis returning as Amanda Waller, the head of Task Force X, if you will. She is the one that recruits all these supervillains, puts them together as a team that she sees as the best fit force to do the job. If they accomplish the mission and they adhere to her directions, then they get 10 years taken off of their criminal sentence. So, you know, kind of wash, rinse, repeat, but this time they're going into a Latin American country of Corto Maltese to get rid of an ultimate weapon known as Project Starro there. So that's essentially the main storyline. The new cast of characters that are part of Task Force X now are Idris Elba as Bloodsport. I wasn't really too familiar with Bloodsport. I kind of thought of him as kind of a generic DCEU merc with a lot of cool gadgets. Kind of reminds me if you put together from the Marvel Universe, Bullseye mixed with some really cool tech. That's kind of what you would get because pretty much anything in his hands is a weapon. And he's literally pulling off pieces of his costume to make different kinds of guns, flamethrowers, an actual slingshot that shoots out of his forearm, and a flamethrower. So he's a kind of a jack of all trades. He's going to be the new head of Task Force X going forward. And then a guy who is a foil in his side as a part of his team is John Cena as Peace Walker. The best way to describe Peace Walker in this film is he is an ultra bro that is extremely patriotic and is willing to do literally anything, good, bad, or in between, for truth, justice, and the American way. You know, spoilers aside, he does have a post-credit scene where he survives, which sets up his HBO Max series that is wrapping up right now. James Gunn enjoyed working with John Cena so much that they went off and made an 8-part miniseries exclusively for HBO Max, focusing on this character. So if you like a turbo violent, unapologetic super bro, then Peacemaker is going to be the series that you're going to want to check out in about a year's time on HBO Max. One of my favorites in the movie is King Shark. Obviously, there was a guy there wearing a suit, doing the mocap, interacting with the actors, and then they CGI'd the character into the film. But the guy who lent his voice talents is the most entertaining. It was Rocky writer, actor, director, Rambo extreme. Sylvester Stallone, the action legend himself, lends his voice talents to voicing in Naue King Shark in this film. And we've seen other versions of King Shark throughout different forms of media in DC Comics. I mean, we've seen him on The Flash, on that live action show, and on the CW. We've seen another kind of more kind of hokier, kind of comedic relief character on the animated Harley Quinn series. But this one is more like Lenny from Mice and Men, just a simple creature trying to fit in with the team when he's not trying to eat them, and then ultimately becomes friends with them, but tries to always try to contain his bloodlust, aka his need for nom nom. So he does rip guys apart. He swallows them whole. I just enjoyed the character. I'm glad that maybe he'll have a future moving forward in this Suicide Squad series. And then the last character that I enjoyed the most was Daniela Melchior as Ratcatcher 2. She plays the daughter of the original Ratcatcher, which is Taika Waititi, plays her father kind of in these flashbacks, which is really cool because he kind of sets her up, gives her all the technology to kind of be like a modern day Pied Piper, that she's able to control rats to help her do her bidding. They defend her, they protect her. She has a small little rat always up by her side that's kind of like her little support companion. So I enjoyed her. She was a new actor that's just come on the scene, but she's one of those character portrayals in the movie that you just love. You love that she made it through. You love the stories that she has, and she's kind of the heart of the team with this new version of Task Force X. So in closing, I enjoyed the movie. It's a very true James Gunn film. It's more so his original movies before he started Guardians of the Galaxy, but he does take a couple of his tropes. He does curate music throughout the course of the movie that the music fits the scene, and it's kind of classic rock or different kinds of forms of music. It's violent. It's unapologetic. There's some crass humor in it. This is definitely not for kids. This is a hard rated R. So in closing, I have some recommendations. If you enjoyed the Suicide Squad that are other forays into James Gunn's kind of background. First one is Slither. Obviously, he borrowed a lot from this film as the central kind of villain in the form of Starro. Starro is this giant intergalactic starfish that makes other little versions of himself that go on other people's faces. And then he kind of controls like a hive mind mentality, which is in Slither. This movie came out, I think 10 plus years ago. It was done by Universal Pictures. It was kind of his first movie before he really started anything. Before this, he had written Zack Snyder's remake of The Dawn of the Dead, and he had also written the scripts for the live-action Scooby-Doo films. So this was his first time kind of helming a movie and being behind the camera. It does kind of have his friends in it as a regular cast of characters. You have Michael Rooker, guy who played Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy and was in The Walking Dead, is kind of the guy who gets possessed by this parasite that's slowly taking over the town and absorbing people, kind of like this giant Akira blob. And another friend of James Gunn's that has to combat this alien parasite is played by Nathan Fillion. It's just set in this old, small kind of Midwestern town where an alien outbreak happens, and Nathan Fillion's character as the sheriff has to step up to the plate to destroy this big bad. It's full of crazier stuff. He has to fight a zombie deer in this film. So I would say check it out. If you enjoyed Starro, then this is definitely going to be up your alley. It has a lot of his same character tropes. And then I would say in closing, if you want to see something that James Gunn produced and helped actually greenlight, this was Brightburn. It was a couple years ago. The central story is what if Superman essentially wasn't raised by the best parents? He was bullied at school and finally came into these powers. And rather than being a beacon of hope, he decided to lay waste to everything around him. This is a very dark film. It's kind of like DC's Elseworlds, where you catch a glimpse if something would have happened in just one small little tweak. If a butterfly flapped its wings in Africa, how would that have affected Superman's production? And how would he have, rather than being a beacon of hope, become a tyrannical terror to the world and this dark kind of fractured universe superhero romp? I highly recommend it. It is extremely graphic. It is not for the faint of heart or people that are queasy. Needless to say, it's another bit of fun. Elizabeth Banks is in this too. She was also in Slither. She kind of plays the young kid, or Clark Kent, if you will, in this movie, mom figure. So I enjoyed it a lot too. But that's just kind of two recommendations I have if you enjoyed the stuff that you saw in the Suicide Squad. So needless to say, I enjoyed this film. I hope that moving forward, James Gunn kind of has mentioned that he's going to do Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and that is going to be his commitment for the MCU. And he's going to probably consider moving into the DCEU, which I think is kind of a better fit because he's not as confined with that PG-13 rating. I think some of his best work, his most funniest work, his most brutal work, and his most kind of captivating and entertaining work is when he doesn't have those limitations of a rating kind of literally having him in chain cuffs, if you will. If you let him go loose, he can do a great movie like The Suicide Squad. I'm looking forward to, if he decides to stay, doing more movies with Task Force X. If not, I think that there's a lot of opportunities in the DCEU that he can explore that would be a lot of fun to bring to the big screen, if you will. I think maybe him even doing Lobo, as crazy as that sounds, would be great. I mean, he has the vibe for kind of vigilante, angsty, badass characters that are unapologetic. And you add that galactic bit of Guardians of the Galaxy, and it's the perfect cross-pollination. So that is my vote. I hope that James Gunn gets a chance to do, you know, the the main man with the mouth, if you will, Lobo. But, you know, that's just kind of me fanboying for right now. So let me know what you thought about the Suicide Squad. If you had an opportunity to watch it, did you catch it on HBO Max or did you watch it in theaters? Who was your favorite character? Do you think that there will be future sequels to the Suicide Squad, or is this just kind of putting the book and closing it shut for right now? And what other projects do you want to see come out of the mind of James Gunn? So as always, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Like, share, subscribe, share this with your friends that enjoy talking about pop culture and just having a good time. And as always, keep the discussion going in the comments below. Hope you have a good one. Hope you catch some good movies, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.